Hey everybody, welcome to the Harbor Freight tarp shed outside the shop. Doing some work on my 40 horsepower Bovaird and Seyfang. Mentioned it a little bit in my previous video, but I am excited. I borrowed some big steel chunks and a 20-ton hydraulic jack from the farm. My biggest hydraulic jack is probably like a 4-ton or something. And with the extra force attachment, actually that was just so I can, pump it easier because the flywheel's in the way. Anyway, I got this thing to move. Look at that, you can see the witness mark there. I cleaned up the crosshead guides there a little bit, scraped them clean and put some oil on them so I don't mess up the babbitt on the crosshead, because the babbitt actually looks half decent. I took a drill with a long drill bit and tried to get as much of the packing out as I could. I just drilled in and picked it out and yanked out a couple pieces, and it's mostly all out. The oil that is in the back charging side of the cylinder, that oil was up to the top a minute ago and the oil's leaking out, so most of it's gone. It's real heavy packing. Here's a chunk of it. Real heavy duty stuff. Real thick. Anyway, it's gonna need some new packing, I think. And it has moved. Seeing some fresh piston in there. See, it's nice and dark and oily from being soaked for about 1.5 years. Look at that. You see it move? Ever so slightly. Slowly but surely. That's what we like. This is the first time this piston has moved in who knows how long. Just look at how rough this engine is. It's clearly been sitting for quite some time. Who knows, 20 years, 30 years? And that's that. The next step, I got to loosen this nut. I tried a little bit earlier unsuccessfully, but this nut was further back, and you see it's kind of in the way of the flywheel, so I couldn't pull on it that well. And there's the wrench. Well, I got the nut loose, as you can see. I was unsure about doing this step initially, but I said, you know what, I got the time, the weather's decent, I'm just going to do it. And I'm glad I did it this way, for however destructive it is, because I cut away like 98% of that, of what you see. I tried the wrench, and it didn't go. Then I tried hitting it with the air chisel on that groove I made. Then it didn't go. So I took the torch, I zipped off every last little bit of material holding it. The wrench still didn't move it, but after about 10 seconds of buzzing it with the air chisel, it finally moved, and it's still stiff. So I don't think I ever would have budged this with such a short pipe and my body weight. Torch or no torch, oil, no oil. You know what? I'll either buy a new nut, or if it's a goofy thread, I'll make a new nut. Not a big deal. Now this is what's cool, what I really love about an oxyacetylene torch. When you're cutting something like this, you'll see that the threads are untouched. Of course, I did rotate this a little bit, but take my word, the threads were untouched, because these are obviously two different pieces of material. So you get the nut hot enough with a torch, and you start cutting it, and the oxygen burns through the steel and does its thing. But when it cuts through and reveals the piston rod and the threads there, it doesn't cut the threads because this isn't hot enough yet, and the flame and the oxygen cutting jet just goes right over it. And if you're careful, you can go all the way across like that and not damage a thread. Of course, if you keep putting heat there and heat up the threads on the male threads, you will of course cut the threads, but if you're quick and you're careful, you will be successful. As you see, there's some snow in there. Of course I wasn't too thrilled with all the snow we got out there, but you know what? When all the oil in there caught fire. It was a pretty hot, crackling fire, and it was quite smoky, and it was smoking me out. So I threw some snow in there, and it worked quite nicely. Alright, well, hopefully you can hear me. I got a mask on because this is quite smoky. Anyway, I decided to take my torch, you can see it down there, and cut the nut right half in two and get it right out of there, because the issue I have, maybe somebody can chime in, the face of the piston has no nut to put a wrench on. So I was hoping to be able to push the piston out far enough where I could get a chain wrench on it or something to turn the piston around to unthread it from the crosshead. But I've only got about 3 inches to go before the crosshead will hit the gland nut, packing nut, whatever you call it. And that 3 inches will just barely get me to the face of the cylinder. So, I cut the nut off just to give me a little bit more distance before I bottom out, and the nut was ruined anyway, so I might as well cut the thing right off. So, it'll be a little bit of a challenge to unscrew that piston. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I don't really want to put a pipe wrench on here. A lot of old two-strokes, you'll see pipe wrench marks in the piston rod. Honestly, I don't think a pipe wrench is going to have enough bite on a skinny rod like this to turn this seized thread, I'm sure it's seized, and the stuck piston. I mean, it's not stuck anymore, but it's still pretty damn stiff. So, I don't know, I might make a special wrench or something to lock into the little transfer port, not transfer port, but the little wings on the piston there. Leave a comment if you have any comments or ideas. Well, that's it for today. I couldn't push it any further past this for some reason, and then I realized that the crosshead was hitting these bolts or studs that hold the upper guide rails down. So I have to double nut these. The next step is to double nut these and to take them out. Hopefully they shouldn't be too much trouble, but yeah, I don't know, we'll see. Then we'll be able to get the last little bit of movement. Or, you know what, maybe, I don't know, I'm talking out loud here, but maybe I'll just try to rotate the piston, get some sort of a tool on these ears. Somebody leave a comment. You'll probably leave a comment before I get around to working on this again. So let me know. And you see, all my pans are full of oil. The piston uncovered the exhaust port a little bit, so all the oil in the back of the cylinder came out. This is real nice stuff. It's like 50-50 waste oil and old diesel, so it did a good job of soaking in. Here's the nut. Interesting nut. The last little bit, the bit that was towards this end, towards this cylinder, was counterbored for some reason. My guess is for clearance, because the piston rod gets larger in diameter, and then it necks down a little bit to this diameter for the thread. So I'll have to measure this. If it's a standard thread, that's awesome. I'll just buy a nut, and if not, I'll have to make a nut. Hey, who cares? No big deal. Anyway, quite a successful day today. I am pleased. I haven't touched this thing in months, and it was about time. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment or a suggestion, and thanks for watching. Make sure to come back for more. And an easy way to come back for more is to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. See you later.